Today's video is sponsored by I Have No Sponsor. I Have No Sponsor is a brilliant program that would make not yours but my life easier. Essentially, all you need to do to get this program is to subscribe and like, and frankly it's free, so go check it out. Dubai has many glamorous land reclamation projects, such as the Palm Jumeirah and the Palm Jebel Ali. But before we go any further, I think we need to go over how land reclamation works.
Here I am, biking to the location. No hands, baby! Woo! Woo! Oh, shoot!
If you really think about it, land never really stops. Yes, it stops where water meets the coast, but under the coast there's still land. So people can alter the shoreline and create more land by just adding more land. Now there's many ways of doing this. One way is to just dump soil onto the place where you want land. But the problem with this is that most of the time there isn't enough soil to meet the demands. Making land requires a lot of land. Since getting suitable sand is extremely hard, especially in urban areas with a limited supply, it pushes most reclamation projects to dredge sand from the ocean floor. But they can't just get sand from the ocean floor that's 50 miles away. It has to be close to the project where sand is really heavy. Wait, but isn't the whole of the UAE desert? Well, yes, but there's different types of sand, and that sand is not suitable for building beaches. I'll get to that later in the video, which means you have to stay longer. More watch time, baby! In order to combat this, most land reclamation projects use this boat that vomits out a mix of water called hydraulic fill. Once your ship is done with its business, you still have to compact the sand and get rid of the air between the sand to build a strong foundation, or else any structure you build on top the new land will end up looking like the Tower of Pisa. But this is only the construction part. Land reclamation can have detrimental effects on the environment. While dredging the sand from the ocean floor, you're destroying the habitats of many animals, and slushing soil all around can increase the turbidity of the water. It can also cause the water level to rise, which in turn creates more floods. It declines the ecosystem's biological diversity as well as a decrease of natural wetlands. There's many other faults, but keeping these in mind, Kuwait decided to take a different approach. Sabah Al Ahmed Sea City kind of looks like an inverted Palm Island, right? Instead of going out, they went in. This project has over 200 kilometers of shoreline, 120 miles for those pesky Americans. It can house up to 250,000 residents, and when completed, it would be about the same size as Manhattan. There were no specific details about its cost. All we know is that the project director said that it was a multi-billion-dollar project. I mean, couldn't you be more specific? The range is really big. It could cost to $69 billion to $420 billion to build this project. The inspiration to start this project came from Khalid Yusuf Al-Marzouk, a really accomplished person who built dozens of companies and famous buildings and who had a dying love for architecture. And one of his dreams was to build a city. The Kuwaiti dream back then was to have a home near the ocean, so demand for beach homes was sky high. The idea was first suggested by him in 1986, believing that the private sector should play a big role in real estate. Sadly, his idea was not put into play because of the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait to make it Iraq's 19th province. After Sudan invaded in 1990 and was kicked out of the country, it took Kuwait over a decade to recover over the trauma of the invasion. So, the project actually started construction until 2004. Unfortunately, Khalid died and his son Fawaz Khalid Al-Marzouk took over the project, but luckily, the son was just as driven as his father. One of the companies the father founded, La Allah, funded the entire project. So this means that this entire city is built by the company. The government of Kuwait gave them zero funding. This makes Sea City the first urban area in Kuwait entirely built by the private sector. The city was named after the Emir Kuwait Sabah Al Ahmed. This project is mainly supervised, planned, and engineered by British and Australian experts. They have over 2,000 workers from over 20 countries involved in these projects, and notable companies like Burrow Happold played a huge part in its construction. But before work began, they made the environment their priority. Looking at you, UAE, they made a commission called the Environmental Impact Assessment, which calculated if the project will affect the ecosystem in a positive or negative way. The land there is not easy to work with. It's filled with silt, which is really hard to do construction with. The silt there is soaked with water, which makes them soft and unstable, which in turn makes the big machines who dig out the silt have a hard time. Many machines got stuck and the company lost many of them. In order to get rid of the silt, they had to go through a hefty process. First, they had to de-water the silt, then get rid of the silt, then replace it with suitable sand. One smart thing they do is that they use the material they dug out and put it on top of the land that's going to stick out of the water. This raises the land level so the homes will not be affected by rising sea levels. In order to make sure that the land is firm enough, they use a technique called dynamic compaction. It's where a machine drops a weight onto the ground to compact the particles together.
The weight usually weighs around 15 tons and they usually drop from about 12 meters high. Oh. Not that I'm an accurate representation of it. I'm not really 15 tons. Or am I?
This dynamic compaction contraption operates 24/7 and does 1,200 drops every half-day shift. The same spots are repeatedly dropped again and again to make sure that their buildings don't end up like the Tower of Pisa. After building land, they have to take into account the improvement of soils, formation of the beaches, electricity, drinkable water, sewage treatment plants, sidewalks, roads, all had to take place before they built a villa on their land. The construction of Jabal Ahmed city consists of 10 phases over the course of 25 years. After making all the land, after all the digging, dumping, and compacting, it's time to bring in the water. Instead of pumping seawater from the ocean, they use a technique called flushing, where they use prevailing winds to naturally push in the water and continue to circulate the water once it's inside. And circulation is important because if water is fast and running, it's clean. But still water is just disgusting.
I mean, just look at that. Look at that still water. Still water is disgusting. Look at this. Moving water, clean.
However, the wind and circulation can only do so much, and the more inland parts of the project need more flow, so they use gates. These gates make sure that water flows in specific points where the water is stagnant, so the water can keep on moving. And once the flowing water reaches the stagnant parts of the water, they are flushed out by another gate on the opposite side of the force of the water that came from the first gate, so the water can flow through the whole city. Now, here's what you have been waiting for. The reason why Dubai didn't use too much of its desert sand. It's because it's the wrong type of sand for beaches. You would think that a desert country would have enough sand, but no. No. Since beaches are extremely important for projects like these, they need to have the right type of sand. There's sand that has been eroded by wind and sand that has been eroded by water. Sand eroded by wind tends to have a rounder shape and a smoother shape, while sand eroded by water tends to have a gritty shape and a square shape. I went to Myrtle Beach on Memorial Day, as you can see, and the sand is very gritty. In Dubai's case, they just imported sand from Australia, but for Sea City, they decided to wash and sift 4 times, only extracting more gritty sands and discarding the round ones. But what makes Sea City truly unique is its impact on the environment. The researchers conduct tests daily around 14 locations to see if the water and sand quality is acceptable, but the results are exceeding their expectations. And not only is it not affecting the existing ecosystem, it created a new one. There are now over 800 species living in the canals, which was once a desert. They plant mangroves on islands where fishes can grow up. The future of this city is bright, as most of this city is already inhabited, in fact 60%, even though it's not completed. That's a stark contrast to the world islands in Palm Jebel Ali, which are both finished but barely have any inhabitants. The fact that they were able to make the country look attractive, create more homes, while taking care of the environment is very respectable. So good job, Kuwait. When completed, I think its population will meet its 250,000 limit. I'm surprised that many people don't know about this. So I hope this video helped you learn a lot about this city, and make sure to share so more people can know about this. Thanks for watching.